What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the BTS Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Disney's latest installment in their sort of live-action, not really live-action franchise of The Lion King.
We are nearing destiny, Mufasa. And so, the earth must shake.
All right, so Mufasa is the 2024 prequel to the 2019 blockbuster smash hit somehow of The Lion King, which is a remake of the original Lion King back from the 90s. This version, though, is, as you probably know, all made with live-action looking animation. It still is animation. None of it is real animals actually acting or doing anything like that, obviously. All right, so let's break down our 5 categories for this movie. We're going to be talking about directing, acting, cinematography, sound, and story. All right, I'm going to try to speed run these because I don't think there's anything really huge to talk about on any of these. Movie's directed by Barry Jenkins. Barry Jenkins is most notably known for Moonlight. Moonlight was, for all practical purposes, his directorial debut, and it was insane. It still is regarded as one of the best movies of all time. His cinematic style is one of the best as well. It's just a very, very strong director working right now. This movie, you would never know it was directed by Barry Jenkins. When you see it, you can kind of get little nuggets of Barry Jenkins' filmmaking in this film, which gives me hope as to, I guess, where he could expand to over time. But really, this movie is not a Barry Jenkins film. If you're going to see it because you love his past work, it's a heavily produced Disney movie, and Barry Jenkins was attached as the director so that they could say they had someone good directing it, but that's about it. Tonally, this is Barry Jenkins' most all-over-the-place movie he's ever done. There's all these horrible shifts between the story that we're actually invested in and caring about, which is Mufasa's story, and then there's this sub-story sort of thing of Kiara, who is Simba's daughter. Kiara is being told this whole story of Mufasa by Rafiki. And then there's also Pumbaa and Timon are in there too. And really it's just there as a sub-storyline so that there's some context so that this doesn't feel like it's just jumping back in time and telling the story of Mufasa. It gives them a reason to have a narrator, which I didn't think was really that necessary either. It gives you some sort of attachment to the original Lion King, so it doesn't quite feel like a prequel as much. It feels a little bit more like a sequel prequel. And then also, I think a large part of why they did this is so that Timon and Pumbaa can be in the movie because people love their characters. They're iconic in the last one. They're iconic in the first one. So because they're kind of known to be the comedic relief in these movies, they just decided to, create this extra storyline just to have them in it, which I thought was strange. Anyway, tonally, this destroys the movie because you can be really invested in a scene and really invested in these characters of Mufasa and his brother and everything else, and you just get pulled out of it at the weirdest times, and it's like 20 times they do it. And as the story gets more interesting, they keep doing it more and more and more, pulling you out of it and showing you these random cutscenes of Timon and Pumbaa and Rafiki, and they're just going back in time just to get a few laughs really quickly, but it's like dollar store Timon and Pumbaa. It's not really the Timon and Pumbaa that we care about and we like, because it just feels forced. It feels Disney forced, and I hate this about Disney movies. This is going down as the Barry Jenkins version of Chloe Zhao. I believe that's how you say her name. The woman who directed Nomadland, great job directing, and then moved on to The Eternals, which once again produced by Disney, and you would never know that she touched that movie because of how bad it is and how Disney-esque it is. Disney just takes directors, gives them a big paycheck, and then basically doesn't have them do anything to contribute to the movie. So no shade on Barry Jenkins' filmography other than this movie, but this movie directing, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 because you don't even know that there's a director attached for most of the movie. All this being said, I will say this whole movie, even with its flaws, is so much better than Moana 2. Moana 2 was horrible. Horrible. All right, next up, we've got acting. The vocal performances in this movie are actually very, very good. I thought they were all really strong vocal performances. The singing was actually really good. None of these songs were memorable enough for me to be, looking them up on Spotify on my way home or anything like that. Nothing really stuck with me. And it just doesn't really feel Lion King-esque. It feels a lot more like Disney just wanted to add Lin-Manuel Miranda to another project. And at this point in history, he's their golden child. He's their composer, writer, everything that they like. So they just needed an excuse to attach him to another project. No shade on his work. I think he's a good songwriter, but he's definitely been overused within Disney, and nothing special is coming out of this project here. But vocal-wise, I thought that Aaron Pierre did a great job. Aaron Pierre took on the voice of Mufasa for this movie. This guy actually really crushes it. He takes the character of Mufasa starting out and kind of does some subtle voice work, which I thought was really impressive. At the beginning, it doesn't sound anything like James Earl Jones.
Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Who notoriously crushed it with Mufasa's voice back in the day. And he takes it from that point where you wouldn't recognize any similarities in their voices to sort of, as this character grows up and takes on these kingly attributes and everything else, he becomes more kingly in his voice too, if that makes any sense. He starts sounding more like James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones, to me, is the epitome of voice actors. You've got Darth Vader, you've got Mufasa. He's just fantastic. And Aaron Pierre really does a good job of filling those shoes, although it won't match exactly. He does a nice job of slowly developing the voice of Mufasa throughout the movie, which I think is something very subtle but very cool. Really enjoyed that part of the experience. I think Calvin Harrison Jr., who plays Taka, or later on Scar, I think he does a great job as well. I was really confused as to why they made him so heavily British. The character has a little bit of a British accent in the Lion King movies, but it's not that strong, and this is like really strong, which I found hilarious because for a movie taking place in Africa, he somehow has a strong British accent, which I thought was odd. Anyway, and it's not like a South African accent, because there's a difference. If it was a South African accent, I could understand maybe a little bit, but it has no ties to South Africa or Africa, and instead it's just straight up London British accent. Otherwise, overall, voice actor-wise, thought this movie absolutely crushed it, did a great job. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 for voice acting. All right, next up is really where this movie shines, and this is going to be in the cinematography/visual effects department. This movie is 100% computer generated. It is inspired by real locations and real animals. There's nothing fake going on here other than the fact that everything was generated literally in a computer. So the visuals in this movie, if you want to go into visual effects or you want to study visual effects or see how visual effects should be done in a film, this movie is a masterclass. The visual effects are so clean. They're so good. It's very much worth watching and taking notes on. The visual effects in this movie are really the only reason that this movie is worth watching. If it was just a generic animated movie or something else, I would probably pass it by and not think twice about it. But because it's made with these earth-shattering visual effects, you have to see it in a theater, in IMAX, in Dolby, something where it's a big screen. It's very much worth the experience. In particular, there's some snow effects. There's little flakes of snow that get like caught in the fur of the animals, which is really wild because animation-wise, to make that happen, if you don't know, it's super difficult. There's one part in particular, Rafiki's playing in the snow, making like a snow angel, and the way the snow interacts with his fur and with his body and reacts with itself, even on the ground, the way it moves, is insane. This, I'm not that old, and none of this would have been possible when I was a kid, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me, just how far we've come in the past couple of years and just how quickly these things are developing and becoming so much better and so much more real. All right, cinematography and visual effects. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I was blown away. Second to last here, we have sound. The sound design in this movie is probably my second favorite part of it. As I was watching it and just hearing the like whooshes of, as a mountain goes by, or there's one part you fly through a tree, like right in the opening scene. They just have these beautiful deep bass whooshes that a lot of times in movies, I feel like filmmakers forget to do. It's just kind of overlooked as like, oh, well, it's a gorgeous shot, it's fine. But adding those whooshes, those subtleties in the sound, even when the snow's falling, there's just this matte deadness to the sound in the theater, which is very realistic to when you're on a mountain with snow everywhere. It's just the attention to detail and sound was remarkable in this movie. I was actually really wowed by it. I'm going to give it a strong 9 out of 10 as well. All right, last thing we have here is the story. The story, there's nothing really remarkable happening here. It's kind of a copy and paste story that you can take from almost any movie and put it in here. I just feel like overall, the things that stood out to me story-wise were more or less the shortcuts that they took in the story, or the things they were a little bit lazy on. These things being Scar getting his name is really, really dumb. They could have done it so much better. I was thinking when I walked into this movie, I was like, I'm excited to see how Scar gets his name. Like, what did they think of for that? And what it ultimately comes down to is so anticlimactic and just like an afterthought. It's not something that you feel like anyone really put any time into. They were just like, to the intern that started the day before the movie was going to be finished, they were like, hey, how do you think he should get his name? All right, cool. And that's what we went with. It's just there's no thought or care put into some of the details in this. There's also moments where music just cuts in for no reason. And I feel like this comes down to the script. In the script, you lay out where a musical number is going to happen. And I get certain points, musical numbers are good, but at a certain point, there's too many. And there's so many that are not serving a purpose cinematically, really overall story-wise. They're taking away because, for instance, I can give you this. They're being chased by these huge white lions who want to take over basically all of Africa, kill all the Lion Kings, and become the Lion Kings themselves. These lions are after them, and it's kind of intense. You don't know exactly how far away the lions are because they just kind of seem lost, and then all of a sudden they like spawn into a spot. It's a whole nother thing. They just pop up whenever they're needed. But more on that later. More or less what it is there's this moment where they're taking this shortcut path thing that they're all unsure of and they think is going to be dangerous. They don't know what's going to be down there. They're all really worried about all of this. These giant white lions are right on their heels and they're kind of unsure as to what's going to happen, right? Cut to a music number because why not? I was sitting in the theater and I openly started laughing. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe they cut to a music number. This is the worst time for these characters to be singing and dancing and everything, which effectively is giving these lions a great time to, one, catch up to them, and two, pick up on their trail because they're going all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. I think that's just terrible writing in that way. Overall, the script itself, other than that, the dialogue is fine. There's nothing really bad. There's little nuggets of maybe there's a deeper meaning somewhere in this movie, but it's so far buried in all the Disney-ish stuff that you just never really get any of it to come to the surface. It just feels like a copy and paste storyline. They picked up a hero's journey storyline, but overall what you're really watching is this lion cub who loses his family, goes on this quest to find his family, and picks up iconic characters along the way, one of those being his brother, who turns out to be Scar, picks up Sarabi, his wife, picks up Rafiki later on, picks up Zazu, the bird, and then eventually makes it to the Pride Lands, which is not known as the Pride Lands at the time. The the rock that they stand on at the beginning of the Lion King movie, the iconic, slab jutting out rock, that comes about in this movie too. You get to see how everything kind of takes its shape for the Lion King movies, and it's all set up for the Lion King movies. But overall, nothing that's really new and original enough to warrant this movie. No kind of extra message that we missed in the Lion King movies that could be found in this movie. Nothing really spectacular happening here. I'm going to give the story and the writing a little bit of an under average 4 out of 10. All right, those are my thoughts on Mufasa the Lion King. I want to hear, what did you guys think of the movie? What is the best visual effects movie you've seen? And what's your favorite Disney movie that you hope they adapt into a live action feature film? All right, catch you on the next one, guys. I will be watching Nosferatu and Baby Girl coming up in the next week. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to sneak out on Christmas Day to see them. I was really hoping to, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, if I don't see you before Christmas, Merry Christmas, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.